Welcome to Take It from the Ironwoman. My name is Susanne Mueller, your host and the Ironwoman. This podcast is about empowering yourself and others to make real changes in the world. You will hear from everyday, smart, sophisticated, hip people like you and me. Not everybody has to be an Ironwoman to impress the world. Together, we will learn from the sports and business leaders how you can become a more successful person as an entrepreneur or a leader. It's one step at a time, one day at a time. Take your steps now. Take your big steps now. Join me on this journey to success. This podcast is being sponsored by Get Loopy. On episode 41, you can hear the story of Isabel, the co-founder and CEO. Get Loopy, get a 20% discount off your first order. GetLoopy.com. Take it from the Ironwoman. Again, always we have special guests. Today we have Erin from Hawaii. Erin, tell us a little bit about yourself, and I'm so happy to have you today.
Good morning. Thanks for having me here. Well, I like to say that I grew up on the beach in Southern California. And actually that has a lot of meaning in my life today. Mm-hmm. I grew up a lot of my time in Southern California, went to school in Southern California. My family was there. And then a fair bit of my early career was there. And at some point early in my career, I ended up both working, going to school full time, getting my MBA, crazy girl, and had the opportunity to try to make all of that balance. It was not an easy thing because I was also rowing at the time post-college. I rowed in college and I wanted to be competitive after college as well. So rowing, going after my MBA and working probably 60-ish hours a week. I would not recommend necessarily, but that is the routine that I had during those days.
This is amazing. And I think they always say, if you want something to be done or executed, give it to a busy person. So probably you would be one of those people. If we need something get done, talk to Erin.
Yeah, busy, but also focused, not multitasking. So part of the thing for me is that over time I've learned by jumping into things. And so my career reflects that, how I chose sports reflected that. And I've experimented with a lot of different pathways in my career, most of which has been in human resources and in coaching and executive management consulting. However, I find that I do that kind of work wherever I am. And I've learned over time that all of the little tools that I've picked up, whether it's from rowing in an 8 or rowing after college in a pair, learning an entirely new way of doing the sport or other sports, learning an entirely different skill set has really paid well for me. And for example, today I work in luxury retail, and strangely enough, even my time in my days working with Frito-Lay and potato chips and merchandising those has a connection. Some would argue, well, not really, but actually there's a pattern there. There's a theme and a presentation, a way you're trying to market that product or service that still comes through today.
And tell us, what is the secret? Maybe the audience will say, like, what does she mean? I mean, I understand that sports and business, there is a connection.
Well, let me tell you what the first pivotal moment for me was in sport, because I played a lot of sports. I played tennis and basketball and softball. But then when I went to college, I really wanted something different. I was recruited to the rowing team. And at the time, West Coast rowing was really not a thing. It was 8 years into its infancy. Nobody knew that women rowed on the West Coast. And so I thought, well, what the heck? Jumped into it. And it became a real important part of my life. And why? Because what I learned was I was actually a pretty good rower. I tend to pick up things fairly easily. I think you do when you play multiple sports, right? You tend to have muscle memory, right? That helps. But I had a really huge obstacle hit me about a year and a half into the first part of my rowing, which was that they wanted me to switch sides. And so for those people who don't know rowing too well, if you're rowing in an 8, you tend to either be a port, so rowing out the port side of the boat, or a starboard, rowing out the starboard side. And I was a starboard, had been trained up as a starboard, felt very confident in that area. Suddenly they wanted me to switch to become a port. And you would think that would be easy, right? Because it's really just a mirror from the left side of the body to the right side of the body. But actually, I found that it tested every single thing that I knew up until that point in time. And I kept practicing all these things and nothing would come together. I'd practice a little of this and this would fall apart. So I'd go back to practice that and this would fall apart. And I just finally decided that I was just going to continue to persevere through the trainings, through all of those obstacles. And there was a day that came that I'll never, ever, ever forget. When I was rowing on the water, the sun was rising. I was in Marina del Rey in Southern California. Absolutely crystal clear and beautiful day. And we were just doing some regular sort of pacings. You know, we'd go on 10 hard and we'd go off 10, off and on 10 hard, etc. And all of a sudden I was in the zone and every single movement came together. My legs worked, my back, all my core, my arms, everything came together in one smooth movement. And all of a sudden I was at one with the boat. And the reason that was such an important time for me is because it taught me everything about the value of a high performing team. Because in a boat of 8, you must be one of the 8. And your role has to be very, very clear that you are one of the 8. And you need to be able to row exactly with your counterparts and understand what your role in it is. I've used that philosophy in all of my life, and I've sought after those kinds of high-performing teams, whether they're in leadership roles or in coaching with people in my coaching practice or what have you. And that's where I get my passion in life. And
I see that moment with the sun. I mean, I think I had such a moment when I was swimming, not the fastest swimmer, but like the half Ironman in Rhode Island. We were in this lake and the sun came up and I was like, wow, isn't that the best? And not that I was winning or anything, but it was just that moment that I will never forget. So I think everybody has that moment and we bottle that for us and this keeps us going.
Yeah, exactly. And that gift keeps giving. And funnily enough, the boat that we rode in our competitions, we named the Synergy. And we sort of had a kind of a crowdsourcing kind of approach to naming this boat, really. They happened to pick the name that I wanted, which was Synergy. And years and years later, probably a decade after I'd stopped rowing at UCLA, I walked into a restaurant in Orange County and there was the boat up in the ceiling of this restaurant that's no longer there, but it was called the Back Bay Rowing Club in Orange County. So the gift still gives. Synergy still painted across the bow of the boat.
Nice. These are the little highlights. Yeah, that's amazing. And then you pick that good energy and synergy probably into your human resources role. Yeah, I do. But I will say that it's not easy to get that kind of synergy, either in your own team as a leader or in an organization, right? When I look at it, I think there's probably 3 different levels I look at around that kind of synergy, which to me really just simply means working together at an exquisitely collaborative level, such that your performance surpasses anything imaginable. That's what synergy means to me. And I think, I've had probably 3 teams that I've been on in my entire career. And I've hastened to say that I've been doing this for probably over 30 years. Many years, since yesterday, but you're an expert. But only about 3 teams where I felt that real synergy. And it's because, honestly, it takes a lot of work and commitment. It really takes understanding, where are we going? What's the clarity? Let's get really, really clear on where we're headed and how are we going to work together? And, oh, by the way, when times change, which of course we all realize at this stage of the game, times are changing at unprecedented levels right now. How do we adapt to that change and react to that change? So it's super important, I think, we bring those concepts into today's really quickly changing world. When you think of those 3 teams, what do you think were the elements or the ingredients that they brought? Well, I think first there was a real commitment to each other and a commitment to building a level of trust that surpassed a workmate level of trust, which is often easy to build, but really not that easy to sustain. Mm-hmm.
And so there is a commitment and an understanding to why a team would make a difference. And then two, out of that trust, there's the ability to have enough ability to have conflict with each other and be able to address that conflict in a very healthy way. Mm-hmm. Meaning that I tell you something that may not be something you want to hear. It may be a little something or a big something, but because I care for you, I'm going to tell you anyway. And that's the gift that I'm there to give you. And then the other side of that is the willingness to receive what comes from that feedback. And I think then taking that and the commitment to achieve the results that you set out as a team, those are the necessary ingredients to make it work. And then allowing the adaptability when stuff changes, because it will.
Yeah. I always feel like it's the time, the commitment, and the trust. That's what we need as leaders. And especially in difficult times, it's not always so sexy to be a leader. You need to be, I always say, comfortable being uncomfortable.
Exactly. And it is. You don't always know that you're making the right decision. And what I do is at the end of the day, I weigh all of the whatever evidence there may be or analysis that I can get. And then I go with my gut, because the truth of the matter is I want to integrate all of my mental, my emotional, my spiritual sides to make the best possible decision that I can. And if I pay attention to all of those and follow that intuition, it usually leads me in the right direction. I find that tends to be the case.
Talking about intuition, right? So where did we meet? We only met virtually, but we have been meeting through the Asian Leadership Institute, where we talk about mindfulness group coaching. How has that helped you in your career while going through all those practices?
Well, for me, it's been a blessing on both sides, because as we work in the Asian Leadership Institute, part of that is our own coaching, receiving our own coaching, right? And really learning about what is it that can work for our customers who become our coaching triads. And then I think there's the training of the actual materials that makes sense to do through the Asian Leadership Institute. But what I say to people is, what it's helped me do is to take the best of the East and the West thinking and put them together, right? So what I consider sort of the Western thinking is this very drive-oriented, goal-oriented, strategy-oriented, deliverable-oriented way of doing things, which is great. There's nothing wrong with that. The other side of it, though, on the Eastern side of it, allows me to integrate my entire self into that process, so that I understand where I sit in that, what my biases might be around that, how I might lead with others and connect with others. And focusing on a couple of things have been really, really pivotal for me. So one is this, as you say, this idea of mindfulness. And I try to practice a lot of different things around that, including things like taking morning walks, which are silent, moving sort of meditations that allow me to gain larger perspective in the outside world. And, well, let's be frank, be grateful for this amazing place that I live in.
I think so, yeah.
But I also do a bit of meditation. And I try to practice those kinds of things, not in a routine sort of militaristic way, but in a disciplined way. And what I mean by that is to check in with myself to find out what would be the best thing for myself in that day. Focusing on that mindfulness that I learned through our work at the Asian Leadership Institute has been so critical for me. And as things change, and in this nutso world that we're living in right now, you realize practicing things like recognizing simple things like it is what it is. The situation is what it is. And so now I can breathe through that and say, okay, what can I do about my situation? I can't change the external world, but what can I do? And turning that story into something that can be for the better. Frank said something that I think is powerful, and I'll mess up the quote, forgive me. But basically she said that, isn't it wonderful that we don't have to wait another moment to start making a difference in the world?
That's
14
beautiful.
years old. It's amazing.
And I think sometimes in the Western world, we're so focused on results and driving and so it's kind of like we also have to step back a little bit. I mean, that's what I took away, like living in New York City, traveling a lot, working with people in the US. I have to say, sometimes working with people from the Middle East or in Asia, it's like, oh, this is beautiful. It's a different pace. I think for the Western world, we need to allow ourselves to slow down a little bit. People don't understand that quite well, but in mountaineering, in order to get to the top, you have to go slow. So in order to go fast, you need to go slow. And people don't understand that concept. When you think rowing, you have to be in sync with everybody else in that boat of 8 or 10. Mountaineering goes slow. And when you think about skiing or running or whatever, you need to find that coordination and balance. I think that's when the intuition comes in, when everything is in flow and you don't have to think so much.
Yeah, exactly. And you're right, people forget planning in a critical time when they feel like they need to move fast is actually so important, because if you do go slow, you will be able to go fast.
I think so. And what does the Dalai Lama say? If you have a busy day ahead of you, meditate more. I think that's perfect. Do you have any reflection, inspiration, or for the audience, what can we give them on their way to slow down, or what is it? I mean, like, I love your morning walk. I see you on the beach of Hawaii and just enjoying that quiet moment. I think we forget that too, right? Quietness that we need.
I would say first, know who you are. It's really important that you are not trying to be somebody else in your life. Know what you bring to the world. We all have unique talents. We all have a unique gift that if we hit upon those, it's such an expression that comes across to people in a way that can be picked up in ways that sometimes people can't hear. So you don't realize what you can do and how you touch other people. So first, know yourself and be yourself. Express yourself as yourself, and have faith that as you're trying to be the best version of yourself, that influence will also come off on other people as well. So that's the first thing. And then I would say there's 3 other things that I think are really important, especially if you're talking about leaders. One is listen. Listen. And I mean, really hear. Take in what somebody says and understand it from their point of view. It's so critical to understanding how you address an issue. And then the second piece of that then is learn. Learn all you can, all your life, about as many topics as you possibly can. Interested and curious about everything, because you'll come up with the best solutions overall. And then lastly, I just say lead. The world needs leaders right now, very desperately. And please don't think that if you have the title vice president or director or manager, that entitles you to leadership. We're all leaders in this world. We all need to lead at this particular time. So step up and lead, whoever you are, wherever you can, with the gifts that you have.
Wow, wonderful. Thank you so much for your pearls of wisdom. This is really great. So I wish you good luck. And I know you're a great leader. The people who work with you can be very happy to have you. Thank you, Erin.
Thank you so much, Susanne.
Great learning from Erin. Next episode will be a voice of Cairo. Don't forget to order your first order from Loopy. GetLoopy.com, 20% off. Take it from the Ironwoman. Every Monday, every Wednesday, we have a new episode. Thank you for listening.